if the question is, should morality be grounded in religion, I would want to first define what we mean by religion or morality, so that we can avoid confusion. And so I think, if we define religion as a revelation of the Creator that comes from beyond space and time, and that is true, objectively true for everyone, then of course my answer would be yes, we should base our morality on religion. But if we use an atheist definition of religion, which is just a human invention or even a delusion, a subjective tradition, then, and that morality derived from that tradition just reflects personal preference, then I would say no. So I think in some of these classes, your professor may be thinking of this atheist definition of religion, and when you talk to people, there can be this confusion. One person is talking, yes, this is a revelation from God that's true. The other one is assuming, no, it's just something that occurred, that evolved over time, and is completely just personal preference. Like maybe I would choose chocolate ice cream over vanilla. It has no real value for all people.
I see.
So kind of the underlying question is, does God exist, and can he communicate with us?
True.
Right?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I still need more clue, like to keep the conversation going.
Okay. Well, I have
little knowledge on this.
Yeah. Well, I'll be. Of course, part of what I do is talk about, the reasons why I think God exists, and I look at the fine-tuning of the universe and biological information as evidences that this place has been designed by someone. And then, in terms of the idea that morality or laws of morality can be true for everyone, we know that there are laws that are true for everyone. The laws of logic are true for everyone.
Yes.
And they are not made of matter or energy, right? And since they've always been true, it means they're eternal. And likewise, I would argue the laws of mathematics are similar. Distributive laws or associative laws, these laws are things we discovered. We didn't invent them, right? And they could not be other than what they are. So I would argue they also show evidence of something that is eternal and non-physical or spiritual. So then we look at morality, and I would say that there are moral laws as well that are true for everyone. And I could give an example, like I think that it is always wrong to torture the innocent and the helpless for the purposes of entertainment, right? I mean, I think that is a moral law that we could say is true for all time, for all people.
True.
Yeah. And so if there is a moral law that can be eternal and non-physical as well, that means that there are some things that transcend culture. That even if there are many religious laws that are created by different societies that are just subjective. That doesn't mean that there are no moral laws that are objective and eternal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh.
I've got more if you want me to keep going.
Yeah, sure.
So
I want to hear more.
So the thing about morality is it's about intention, right?
Yes.
It's not what physically happens. So if someone tries to hurt you intentionally, but they're not successful, you hold that person responsible for doing something bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't physically harm you, but they tried to, and that was their intention. Now on the flip side, if someone does hurt you physically, but it was not their intention to, it was just an accident, you don't hold that person responsible.
Yes.
So I would argue that morality is not about what physically happens, it's about intention. And you see that criminal law is based around intention as well. You know, you have different degrees of murder based on what was the intention of someone. Was it premeditated? Was it accidental? Was it because of irresponsibility? You know, and so our laws are built in that way. And intention is something that's not physical, right?
Yes.
It is a non-physical thing. It is a mental state, you know? So that's, you know, my argument is that the non-physical world is actually primary and more important than the physical world, because you see that logic and mathematics and morality, all these things are in this other transcendent plane rather than a physical thing. So, and I think lastly, unless you have a question. Okay, I'll keep going. Lastly, I would say that the conscience, that human beings experience something called the conscience, and it is something that when we do something wrong, it makes us feel guilty.
Yes.
You know, and that guilt, so you can feel guilty for something you never did, but you only thought about doing, right? Say if you thought about hurting someone,
Yes.
or you hated someone and never told anyone else, it was all within you. So there was that person wasn't hurt and no one else was even told about it, you could still feel guilty for feeling that way toward that person, you know? So I would just say that that's another evidence that morality is something spiritual, and even though, again, there may be many laws that people create that are subjective, that are just their personal preference, that does not mean that there are no eternal or objective moral laws.
I think that I have raised this question in class, and I want to bring it to you to ask for your opinion.
Okay. Well, I don't want to miss your last point that you were talking about, that if there was a person, I think you were saying, who didn't care about morality, but they did what was right. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, like at that moment he forgets all about morality things and he just does what is supposed to be done.
But I think the assumption there is that there is a law even if he doesn't care about it, that does exist.
Yeah.
And you're comparing his behavior to that law. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, certainly a person, an atheist, someone that says they don't believe in objective morality, can do something that is objectively right, but only if objective moral laws exist, right?
Yes.
So if those laws don't exist, then there's nothing to compare his behavior to. So the laws have to exist to compare his behavior to them.
True, that's
right.
True.
Otherwise, we'll just say it's his preference, and there are no laws that restrict or obligate us.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I learned a lot today. Like there's so many ideas that I can see clearly right now.
Right. You know, Plato believed that there were laws, you know, what he called forms, that were essentially eternal spiritual things that existed beyond the physical world. And you know, this is just a quote from you know, his work, The Republic, where he talks about how justice is, you know, given by some divine power, and also by there's another C.S. Lewis was an Cambridge and Oxford professor, and he was an atheist at one time, but became a Christian and wrote some books. One of those books is something called Mere Christianity, where he talks exactly about this issue, about the moral, what would be called the moral argument for the existence of God. And if you're interested, I think I have a copy of that. Yeah, you're welcome. Just mainly the first part of it talks about, would be the part that you'd be interested in. Oh, is this for your sociology class?
It's for and how can I say? It's focus and theory class. Like we talk about social and global issues like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Andy, I think when we first met that you said that you were a Buddhist, or that your family had followed a Buddhist.
Yeah, we're Buddhist.
Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, that's the thing, is you see all these different religions, obviously based on the laws of logic. You know, the most primary law of logic is the law of non-contradiction, which says that two things that are opposite each other cannot be both true at the same time in the same way. So all of these religions that differ from each other, they can all be false, but they can't all be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The person that says all religions are true is really saying no religion is true and it doesn't matter anyway. The person that you think is being your friend is actually insulting you, because the person that says, oh, all religions are true, they're really saying none of them are true, and, you know, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. So if we really believe in truth and that we can find truth, then there must be a way to figure out which religion is true, and if any of them are true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I grab it vaguely, but
okay.
Yeah, I have a general idea of what you mean.
Yeah.
And still, I will put more thought probably on this topic more. You know?
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow. Yesterday when I mean 3 days ago when I first knew about the assignment, and you are the first one to pop up in my mind. Definitely Mr. Bill.
Awesome.
Well, good. I'm so glad to hear from you again, and glad you're doing well here this year.
Yeah, thank you so much.